remarkable and original approach to trad music. Although Oisin comes from a fiddling stronghold of County Donegal with his distinctive northern accent, he incorporates styles from outside of Ireland, as he's hinted in his latest CD, Far from the Hills of Donegal. Here you can hear the influences not just of Scottish fiddling, but of bluegrass, jazz, and old-style show tunes. What makes Oisin's original is his unique approach to improvisation that one listener said plays with all the rules. I think you're in for a real treat from this first-timer at O'Flaherty. Would you please welcome Oisin McAuley?
How are you all doing? Great, it's wonderful to be here in Texas. I think we're all amazed how into the music you are, and it's a fantastic thing. It never ceases to amaze us, you know, that people outside where we grew up care as deeply as we do about these tunes. So that was quite the introduction, Ken. Thanks very much. As for influences of show tunes and all this kind of stuff, as my very well-esteemed teacher, Ben Lennon, once said, tonight, there'll be none of that. So I'm going to keep it pretty much strictly Donegal tonight. And I'll start off with a kind of a set of tunes that I learned from the playing of John Doherty, who is a great fiddle player who travelled around where I grew up in southwest Donegal. I grew up in a town called Carrick, which is one of the places John played most, I'd say, over the years. And this set of tunes, he told a few different stories about it, and the one that comes to mind to me, he would talk about Mickey, his uncle Mickey Doherty, who was a great fiddle player too. There's even a bit of recording left of Mickey's playing, and he said that Mickey was out, he had a field, Mickey, and he wanted to do a bit of farming on it, but there was a fairy fort in this field, so he stayed away from this field, and you know, anyone at home who sees a fairy fort in a field, you can't go near it because the fairies would come and do some damage to you or your property or your people if you damage this. So a fairy fort at home is like a raised circle or a piece of land, and it's kind of like where people built their houses in megalithic times. So anyway, he got sick of this anyway, and he cleared this piece of land, and he all of a sudden found when he went home that his little daughter Grania was taken out of the cot and was missing, taken away by the fairies. So anyhow, he realised his ways, and years later he put back the fairy fort, and all of a sudden Grania arrived back in the cot, not aged a day. So anyway, my mother a couple of years ago, or a number of years ago, decided to give me a patch of land at home in Carrick, out the line in Carrick. Anyone who knows that area, there's a road straight out of Carrick, up towards Teelan, out on along the coast, and she said it's a beautiful piece of land and everything, and I was very excited, you know. I was living in Dublin at the time, and I went up to see it, you know, very excited to see this piece of land where I would put a house, you know, that I could go back to in Carrick and play me fiddle tunes. And I drove up around the corner, and sure enough, where the little boreen was down to the piece of land was overlooking Teelan Bay, Slieve League in the distance, and you couldn't want for a better place to put a house. And I walked down, and what did I see in front of me? Right in the middle of the bloody land, there was a fairy fort. So that was the end of that. Anyway, we'll play this for you. This one's called Welcome Home, Grania. And for the class today, we learned this in the class, so hopefully I'll play it right, or they'll give out to me tomorrow.